This is brilliant, but I like this.
Ooh, my wish is fulfilled. I mean, this is the remake I've been personally wanting a team to develop for years.
But to begin this review, let's first talk briefly about video game remakes.
And it would appear that they're now becoming almost as constant as movie remakes.
There's, a few of them about.
But I ain't tiring of it, because whilst great films have that timeless quality to them, which in turn makes them a bit redundant to remake,
great video games, well, that's a completely different story.
Seriously, go back and play games like Final Fantasy VII, GoldenEye, and the original Tomb Raider. Critically acclaimed, but they have not aged well.
Now, of course, you have other video games that have aged a bit better, like Crash Team Racing, for example.
CTR was the fourth and final Crash Bandicoot game from Naughty Dog, and it was unbelievably good. You see, back in the 90s, Mario was the king of kart races, with the beloved Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 under the Italian plumber's belt. And true, many other kart races came around to challenge Mario's throne, but most came across as cheap knockoffs, with only Diddy Kong Racing coming close to Mario Kart's quality. But then, Crash Team Racing hit store shelves in '99.
And in my honest opinion, it not only rivaled Mario Kart, it was better than it.
It both looked and sounded superior in my opinion. The sense of speed was much greater with a far more involving drift boost system, and it had a fully fledged adventure mode, something Mario Kart didn't have and has never had to this day.
But it would appear Nintendo were paying attention to CTR, for they then countered Naughty Dog with bigger and better Mario Kart games of their own.
Such as Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Kart DS, and Mario Kart 8, all a big hit with critics and fans. But when it came time for Crash Team Racing sequels, well, things didn't go quite as planned. Yeah, without Naughty Dog's guidance, Crash just couldn't compete anymore with Mario. And for the next 14 years, aside from a forgettable iOS game, Crash Bandicoot would never again sit in a racing kart. And for that matter, Crash wouldn't have any appearance on a home console game from 2008 onwards.
But then in 2017, the Crash Insane trilogy hit store shelves.
It was a remake of the first three classic Naughty Dog platform games on the PS1, and it was a hit. Finally, Crash was back in form, with sale numbers through the roof, and with fans wanting Crash's newly found revitalization to continue.
And so, everyone's attention turned to Crash Team Racing.
I mean, what a great candidate for a remake. Spruce up the graphics, work in some more tracks and characters, add online play to bring Crash into the modern gaming age.
And lo and behold, those beautiful sons of bitches did it.
Enter Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled for PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch.
And which budding developer has decided to take this project on? Well, none other than the geniuses behind the B-movie game. Not fucking with you. This is who Activision has gotten to remake the greatest kart racing game ever made.
And it's honestly not like the rest of their development history is much better.
But spoiler alert, these guys have yanked their thumbs way out of their asses.
Because they've made something surprisingly special here. A beautifully remastered classic.
Only slightly hampered by the fact that, you know. Let's take a look.
Number 1. Driving more adventure on the big black rough thing. So, like on the PS1, Adventure Mode is the real meat of this remake, and it's an excellent place to get started for newcomers and old fans looking to brush up on their skills. The plot of the game,
what little there is of a plot,
concerns an alien by the name of Nitrous Oxide, who arrives on Earth to challenge its fastest racer.
If your driver wins, I'll leave your miserable little walk alone. But if I win, I will turn your entire globe into a concrete parking lot and make you my minions.
Yeah, how exactly is Oxide gonna take over the world anyway?
Say their fastest racer loses. What, are Crash and his gang just gonna give him the planet?
I mean, these guys have packed some serious heat in the past. Well, that'd be the alternate ending anyway.
Anywho, the gist of adventure mode goes as follows. You pick a character, collect 16 trophies, beat 4 bosses to unlock more racetracks, and then finally take on Oxide to save the world. It's a practically non-existent plot, but there's a few fun cutscenes to enjoy, which Beanox has done a nice job of modernising.
Though regarding the adventure mode, I personally would have liked to have seen it extended somewhat.
You see, Crash Team Racing on PS1 had 18 tracks, all of which feature in the adventure mode. Nitro-Fueled, however, features many tracks from Crash's other kart games.
Which is great, but the adventure mode hasn't been altered to accommodate them.
I mean, it's certainly not a big deal, but it seems silly to re-race on these older tracks over and over again when there's newer tracks elsewhere in the game that remain untouched.
Speaking of re-racing tracks, you'll find that if you want to 100% the adventure mode, you need to race each track 3 times. Though I personally wish you only had to race them twice. Bear with me.
First off, there's the trophy race. Simply come in first place and you win. Next is the CTR token race. Here you gotta collect the letters CT and R and win the race. Both these modes are fun as hell to play.
But then you got relic races, and this is a biased as hell opinion, many of you will disagree, but I hate this mode.
First off, I should explain what relic races are.
They're basically just time trials.
But the catch here concerns the many time crates littered across the track. Hit one and the clock will freeze for either 1, 2 or 3 seconds depending on which crate denomination you hit. Now in theory, this sounds like a fine mode,
But in practice, it's just infuriating.
Crash Team Racing is at its best when you're going fast, but when you go fast, it becomes really tricky to hit all the crates. More often than not, you'll just overshoot them. The driving here is not designed to be this precise, so if you miss a crate, you need to awkwardly stop all your momentum, turn around, hit the crate, and then get back to racing. Now true, you can just miss a few crates, but then you won't get the 10-second bonus at the end, which is often crucial for getting a platinum relic. Now, regular time trials are great because it gives you that ever so sweet sense of speed and progression. Relic races are just way too fidgety and slower paced, and it makes them a chore to play. Not a fan.
Now adventure mode does feature 2 other kinds of race.
One is called Crystal Grab. Simply drive around and collect 20 crystals. Now again, Crash Team Racing is at its best when you're going fast, so this is another one of those times where you gotta be slower and more precise. So it's just not nearly as fun. But these challenges don't come around too often, so it's not a big deal.
And finally, you've got 5 boss battles spread across the campaign.
These are one-on-one races, but these guys have infinite ammo of a certain power-up. Now, I'm pretty good at this game, so I'm usually quick to get ahead of them, and as such, they can't hit me. But if you suck at CTR, you might get a little cheesed off with how much shit is thrown your way when you're trying to catch them up. The final race with Oxide can be pretty tricky, so be sure to get good at the game and make full use of the game's more advanced racing techniques,
Of which I will discuss right now.
Number 2. Bandicoot Power! Now, if I were asked what CTR's defining feature is, i.e. the one thing that makes it stand out from Mario Kart,
I would definitely call out its drifting system.
much like Mario Kart, Crash and Co can drift around corners to get a boost, but in Mario Kart, you only get 1 boost per drift, and the strength of this boost is depending on how long you drift for and how tight the turn is. In CTR, however, you can boost up to 3 times in a single drift. Hit the boost button when this bar fills, and your timing will determine how strong said boost is. It's a far more engaging system than Mario Kart, I think, because if you want to go fast in this game, you pretty much need to be boosting non-stop.
Yeah, even on the straights.
In fact, in literally every other racing game ever made, the straights act as a moment of reprieve.
In CTR, straights are your worst enemy.
For when driving down them, you'll lose your boost and you will slow down to a crawl, and drifting on a straight narrow road can be very tricky.
And as such, you'll realise that Nitro-Fueled is a racing game all about momentum.
You see, in most games like this, there's usually some sort of boost mechanic, something that gives you a temporary increase in speed, like a Mario Kart mushroom, a drift boost, or the commonly seen boost pad. And in most kart racing games, these boosts only last about 2 to 5 seconds. In Nitro-Fueled, you can make these boosts last as long as you can hold them. Your speed will be increased so as long as there is fire coming out of your exhaust. And the trick here is driving in a way to maintain that fire. If you drive in a straight line too long, hit a wall, or get pelted with an item, you'll lose it. But you can maintain it by drift boosting, jumping off ramps, and by driving over boost pads. And the more boosts you get, the faster you'll go.
And on certain tracks, you'll be able to achieve what's known as blue fire.
And maintaining that level of speed on these tight-ass tracks is really what separates the amateurs from the pros here. It ain't easy, but holy shit does it feel good to pull off.
But what's weird about this whole system is that the game never explains it.
Yeah, I learned all about this mechanic through YouTube tutorials and Reddit posts. I personally think the game could really benefit from an advanced tutorial mode, because understanding this mechanic is the key to winning online and beating Oxide's time trial times.
Oh, and there's another mechanic they failed to mention too. Air braking.
For those really tight tracks like Cortex's Castle, it's a pretty damn important mechanic to know about. It allows you to turn much sharper while airborne and is often crucial for maintaining blue fire. Though that's only something you gotta worry about on specific tracks.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the tracks.
And there's a very healthy amount on offer here, with over 30 available at launch and more on their way with DLC. And the tracks themselves nail that ever so sweet difficulty level, in that they're easy to drive but hard to master. You see, most tracks feature 1, 2, or even 3 shortcuts, and some can be incredibly difficult to maneuver through. But 90% of them are fair, and most of the time, if you mess up a shortcut, it's your fault.
But then there's Sewer Speedway.
This track is infamous among CTR fans, for there's a ramp here which you can jump off to the right on. Nail this and you'll shave several seconds off your lap.
But I swear to God, skill is not a factor when going for this shortcut.
Despite good speed and a well-timed jump, you'll more often than not end up with your face in the wall. Beanox need to fix this. It's been established that this was not a problem in the original PS1 game, so some tweaking of the jump physics here is definitely required.
Anywho, let's move on and talk about a common staple mark in kart races, the weapons and power-ups you get.
And what's on offer here is pretty standard. Bowling bombs and missiles are like shells, the Aku Aku power-up is like the gold star, TNT crates and potions are the banana equivalents.
The items themselves aren't the standouts, but there is a cool mechanic associated with them.
For they can be powered up by collecting Wumpa Fruit, the Mario Kart coin equivalent here. This adds further incentivization to actually pick them up.
Because in Mario Kart, I rarely ever bother going for the coins.
They apparently make your kart faster, but I've never noticed any increase in speed. Here, there's still no noticeable increase in speed, but powering up the power-ups is a nice little bonus, and it'll sometimes convince you to abandon your racing line to get them.
Oh, and speaking of items, let's briefly touch upon the game's battle modes.
And I do mean brief, because battle modes in kart races hold no interest to me. But if battle modes are your thing, then I think you'll be happy with what Nitro-Fueled offers. There's plenty of unique tracks built around the purpose of battling,
something Mario Kart 8 didn't originally do.
There's split screen play, online play, and there's a very generous amount of modes too, like Crystal Grab, Capture the Flag, and your atypical deathmatch modes. Battle mode junkies will find plenty to like here.
But as for me, I've been more of an online junkie. So let's talk more about that.
Number 3. Could we not vote for Twilight Tour?
For 5 minutes!
So yeah, let's talk about online play. And it's mostly what you'd expect. You put in a matchmaking lobby, wait about a minute, vote for a track to race on, and go to town. And for the most part, it's a pretty solid experience. Once races have begun, I've never had a dropout, and aside from 1 or 2 frame rate hiccups, it's been a smooth ride.
Well, aside from one instance where I somehow got stuck in a ceiling, but I just found that more funny than anything else. Oh, and then there's this weird glitch going on that turns your fellow racers into glitch deformities.
What the fuck is that? You poor creature. Once you've been given this form, there is no way of separating you again.
I apologize for referencing that scene 2 videos in a row.
Now, in terms of difficulty, I actually have done pretty well online. I'd say about 1 in 3 races I do outright win, and 80% of the time I finish in the top 3. I don't have nearly that level of success in Mario Kart's online modes.
And I think this is due to how the game's weapons aren't as powerful as Mario Kart's.
Missiles tend to miss more than red shells, bowling bombs are really difficult to aim as they verge off to the right a bit when you use them, and there is no blue shell equivalent here. I mean, the warp orb is very similar, but this weapon actually targets all races in front of you. And it's seemingly random with who it hits. There is no weapon in the game that just slows down first place.
Whether that appeals to you or not is up to you.
As a result, if you're skilled at the game and happen to find yourself in a lobby filled with players
less skilled than you can pull off mighty leads.
Like, races end 30 seconds after first place crosses the line. And I have had times where I won races and the time ran out before anyone else could even cross the finish line. And it made me think to myself,
it's not really fair having me, a CTR veteran, race with beginners. Yeah, I think some sort of ranking system is needed here.
a lot of competitive online games have these. It ensures skilled players play against other skilled players, and it gives lesser skilled players more of a shot at winning. There desperately needs to be some sort of leveling up mechanic. Putting players of all skill levels in the same lobby just isn't fair. It makes race wins feel less special to experienced players, and it gives beginner players little chance at tasting victory.
Though sometimes it kinda evens out.
I have had numerous races lost because of bad luck with weapon hits, and I do think there is a bit of an overkill factor to the clock and warp orb power-ups. There have been times when I had about 3 separate warp orbs head into me at once. And in some instances, the clock power-up, which slows down all races, can often go off up to a dozen times in a single race.
But sometimes it can go completely in the favour of the leader.
I have had several times where I picked up an Aku Aku mask in first place.
Translation for Mario Kart fans, you're in first place and you pick up a gold star. What?
Hopefully a future patch can balance this out. It gets a bit ridiculous at times.
So you might be asking yourself, what do you get for winning a race? Well, considering how much there is to unlock, not that much.
Number 4. Activision, what are you doing? So let's talk about the game's economy, which is one of the biggest updates CTR has received here. Every time you complete a race, you'll earn Wumpa coins, of which you can spend in the pit stop to unlock new cosmetic items, like new characters, carts, stickers, and wheels. And these coins get a multiplier bonus if you earn them online, which makes sense given that winning against humans is more challenging than winning against AI.
Now listen up people, because thanks to my incredible talent at procrastination, I can talk about something that not many other critics have been able to mention in their reviews. The microtransactions.
Yeah, as you can imagine, being a game that features an Anthem, Fortnite-esque rotating item store,
and with coins as currency, yeah, you can use real money to buy unlocks here.
Now, if you watched my Devil May Cry 5 review, you'll note how I actually said that microtransactions don't bother me anymore. As long as they're non-intrusive and don't employ any pay-to-win tactics, I'm fine with them.
But there's 2 other negative aspects to microtransactions that I forgot to mention, and Nitro-Fueled is guilty of them both.
First off, the coin output from playing the game normally is not very good. If you're lacking some of the multiplier bonuses, it can take well over a dozen races to unlock a single item.
Now, you'd think that I wouldn't mind this too much.
I mean, I'm good at the game. I often come in first place. I should be making bank here. But unfortunately, the coin output actually doesn't differ that much, depending on race position. If you finish first, you of course get more coins, but it's barely more than finishing last. And the coin output is largely dependent on the length of the track you race on.
So in some cases, you'll actually make more coming last on a long track than you will coming first on a short one. It's kinda bizarre.
It's clear that they didn't want to sway talented players away from the microtransactions too much, because the fat cats at Activision know that they're the ones most likely to purchase them.
And the second issue I have here hits a little close to home as a critic, because Activision have been sneaky here.
You see, the game has microtransactions, but they were absent at launch. As such, anyone who reviewed the game close to the release date couldn't mention them. And Activision knew this. They held off putting microtransactions into the game to garner positive reception from critics. They did just that with Black Ops 4, and they've done it again here.
As such, I'm knocking 2 points off my final score for this game.
If you want to put microtransactions in a game, fine, but be upfront about it. I mean, at least I now know that any Activision published game with a focus on online multiplayer is gonna do this, so lesson learned.
But what's annoying about Activision's greed here is that I'm now about to praise them for the complete bloody opposite.
Because Nitro-Fueled retails for less than usual and features free DLC updates. Yeah, one such update is the Nitro Tour Grand Prix. On top of the coins you earn from races, you get given Nitro, which unlocks new special carts and character costumes, and you get a new track to race on with each new Grand Prix season. It's fantastic to see a game being supported like this post-launch.
But if they do more events like this, make the tasks you gotta do a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you got typical ones like win enough races online and beat a specific time on a track.
But then you got so many mundane and pointless tasks.
Like collect exactly 10 crystals in the crystal grab mode, or explode a TNT crate next to another player, or finish the last lap of a race while driving backwards? Who thought these up? Who thought this would be fun? Then you got tasks like win a race against a friend, which punishes players who don't know anyone else who plays this specific game on their specific console. Then you had a task which required you to finish the Crash Cove race in every position. Yeah, to complete this task, you had to race Crash Cove 8 times online, finishing first, second, third, fourth, and so on. It's like somebody at Beanox was taking the piss.
Oh, and just before I was about to film this review, I spotted a new task which required you to finish the Hyperspaceway track without hitting a single boost pad, of which is literally impossible. They didn't even test this shit. I mean, it's not a huge deal, cause you get more than enough nitro through the tasks that do work. Just Beanox, sort this shit out for future events. Make the objectives fun, but more importantly, make them actually possible to complete. Anyway, let's conclude.
So with all that said, Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled is the best kart racing game I've ever played. It's everything I initially wanted, with new tracks, upgraded visuals, online play, and tight as hell controls.
But it was as I played the game, I realised I wanted a bit more.
Like Relic races I think needed a rework, though that's just my personal biased opinion. Some balancing issues need sorting out, mostly concerning the item drops, and the microtransaction practice here is backhanded and misleading.
And seeing as how I'm one of the few critics that can mention it, I have to take a stand here and say, fuck this. So Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled gets a 7.
It was going to be a 9, but now it's a 7. I still say it's worth a purchase, just don't pay for any microtransactions. Vote with your wallet, people.
Now, would I recommend Nitro-Fueled over Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Both are available on Switch after all. Well, it depends. If you're more of a casual, laid-back racing fan, then go for Mario Kart. But if you're a skilled player, looking for more of a challenging, rewarding experience,
CTR is your new go-to kart racer. Just fuck the microtransactions. See you guys next time.